Hello and welcome back to Vindolanda Roman Fort, a simulation made possible by the software Medieval Engineers. Today, in tour number 2, I want to take you through more of the 3rd century fort, showing you the things that we know for sure to exist, and how I've portrayed them in the game. Most of what's known for certain comes from the central range in the northern part of the fort. We visited a barrack block in tour number 1. Today I want to flesh out the rest of the area. We start at the north gate. This was, on paper, the fort's main gate. It led out to the major east-west road, the Stane Gate, that served as an artery along the whole northern frontier. It and the rest of the fort's 3 gates were excavated in the 1930s. You'll see water troughs here and at the west gate. They're there in real life too. We're going to walk east along the Intervallum Road, which sat behind a Roman fort's wall and gave access to the wall walks. At the fort's northeast corner, we come to a latrine, or toilet block. This was found in 1972 and is one of 3 now known from the fort. Romans were masters at water management and hygiene, so to them good toilets were a must. Modesty was less important. This latrine could be used by several soldiers at once, sitting on wooden benches like this, and using a sponge on a stick the way we use toilet paper. This 2nd century wooden toilet seat was found last year at Vindolanda, deep underground and perfectly preserved. In a latrine, running water was piped into 2 channels. A narrow upper channel held fresh water you would use to rinse the sponge and keep it clean. A larger channel below the seats flushed out the waste through culverts in the fort wall, keeping the area fairly sanitary, all things considered. We're walking now down the eastern edge of the fort, past another row of barracks to the right, which was partially excavated in 1980. The steep mound of earth to our left is the rampart backing, a standard part of any Roman fort to strengthen the fort walls. After the barrack, we come to the commander's house, the praetorium. In many ways, a praetorium was Rome on the frontier. The commander and his family and staff had all the best that Roman civilized life could offer: fine clothing, well-made jewelry, exotic spices, a library and scribes, and the best meats and wines. The prefect of a Roman fort bore heavy responsibilities and reaped big rewards for his service. The praetorium you can see at Vindolanda was excavated in 1997 and 98 and shows many confusing rebuilds over some 200 years of life. In its last Dark Age phase, long after Rome had fallen, it may even have held an early Christian church. Here, at its 3rd century peak, it would have been a Mediterranean-style courtyard building, with a private bath suite, running water, lots of living space, and long ranges of offices, workshops, kitchens, and larders. We continue our journey west down the main street, the Via Principalis. The Principia, the headquarters, was highlighted in an earlier video, so I'll go past it here and just mention again that this was the heart of any Roman fort. It held the assembly hall, soldiers' records and pay, arms and armaments, and the garrison standards and their sacred relics. West of the headquarters are 2 large buildings found in 2008. The first was a granary, holding the grain supply for the garrison, which was probably shipped in periodically from far away. Its floor was paved with large flagstones over a hollow crawl space that let air circulate and keep the space dry and free from rodents. Granaries are easy to identify thanks to their buttressed walls, which help support the weight of the grain inside. West of the granary sat another building the same size and also buttressed, but without any kind of crawl space, it clearly had a different function. Archaeologists believe it was probably the fort's large supply and storehouse, which is how I fitted it out. Going through the storehouse, you find that the ground surface to the rear is lower than the front. This is just what they found in 2008, and it makes sense so that goods could be more easily transferred from carts to the buildings. It also offered a wide open area where carts could be turned and maneuvered. We're now in the southern part of the fort. A couple hints of buildings are known from archaeology, but most of what I've put up here is educated conjecture, and a topic for the next talk. However, this large and ornate water tank is known. In fact, it was just discovered April this year. In real life, it has many drains and water channels running to and from it, another example of Roman water management. Leaving the southern side, we go back to the Intervallum Road. You see here 2 large bread ovens, built into the ramparts. Many of these are known all around the ramparts. It was considered safer to keep fires burning here than inside barracks and other flammable buildings. These 2 were found in 2006. along with the little lean-to building next to it, which may have been just a sheltered spot to mill the grain. Small hand-operated millstones are found all over Vindolanda. We passed the west gate, probably the liveliest part of the fort, as it opened out onto the bustling town beyond. And now we walk along yet another barrack block. At least a few more bread ovens were once built into the rampart walls here, I just haven't put them in yet, except at the end. You may notice that there are no defensive towers in this fort, no place for artillery or catapults. Catapult platforms were tacked on to the fort's corners later, maybe in the 4th century as the frontier grew less secure. But for my time frame, about AD 235, it appears there were none. We come now to the last building on this tour, the temple to Jupiter Dolichianus, identified by a gorgeous altar found within the rubble in 2009. This building is one of the only known temples or shrines built within a Roman fort anywhere in the Roman world. Doliche was a Middle Eastern storm god or god of smiting, so he was popular among the military, and many forts have Dolicana, but always outside the fort walls. Vindolanda is unique. While this might have been a grand 2-story domed building, much of it was rebuilt from reused stones, so I've pictured it as a simpler structure. A meeting hall with a shrine to the god, a place to sit and hear a service, and a long table for special meals or gatherings. This building lasted until sometime into the 4th century, when it was deliberately destroyed, possibly as Christianity spread and the old gods were banished. Well, that about sums up the known parts of Vindolanda's 3rd century fort. Next time, I'll take you on a tour of the southern part, where facts are still few and a lot of blanks have to be filled in. Thanks for watching!